All right, let's talk about Comfort Systems USA, ticker FIX, because their third quarter 2025 earnings were, well, they're absolutely explosive. Seriously, this wasn't just a simple earnings beat, it was a massive statement to the market. So let's dive right in and see what's going on. And yeah, the market heard that statement loud and clear. Just look at this number. The stock absolutely rocketed up almost 20% in a single day. So the big question is, why? In this explainer, we're going to unpack exactly what lit the fuse on this incredible move and what it tells us about where things are headed. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll hit the headline numbers that just shattered expectations. Then we'll peek inside to see what's really driving this. After that, we'll get into what management had to say, look at the big picture, and then, of course, we'll wrap it up with our take, the next call. Okay, first up, the headline beat. And honestly, calling it a beat just doesn't do it justice. This was a blowout quarter by pretty much every metric you can imagine. They didn't just clear the bar, they launched it into another galaxy. So let's start with earnings per share. The company posted GAAP earnings of $8.25. Now, the Wall Street consensus was sitting at $6.29, so yeah, they absolutely crushed it. But get this, that's double what they earned in the same quarter just last year. That is a massive, massive surprise. In the revenue story, it's just as incredible. $2.45 billion in sales. That's a 35% jump from last year. And it wasn't even close to what analysts were expecting. They beat the street by almost $300 million. I mean, growth on that kind of scale is just, it's remarkable. Okay, but here's the number that for me really tells the story about the future. A record-breaking backlog of $9.38 billion. And you gotta understand, this isn't just work they hope to get. This is signed, sealed, delivered. Contracted work already in the pipeline. It gives them this incredible visibility and a huge tailwind going into 2026. All right, so the headline numbers are obviously fantastic, but the real question is, how in the world did they pull this off? Let's pop the hood and see what the real engines of this outperformance are, because it's about a whole lot more than just revenue growth. And, you know, the story gets even better when you look at how profitable they are. Check out the gross margins. They expanded from about 21% last year all the way up to almost 25% this quarter. That's a huge jump. And what it tells you is crucial. They're not just winning more business, they're winning smarter, more profitable business. So, where's all this high-quality work coming from? Well, you can see the industrial segment is the clear heavyweight here, 65% of revenue. But, and this is the really important part, inside that industrial slice, you've got technology. We're talking mostly data centers. And that now makes up a whopping 42% of the entire company's revenue. Folks, that's the AI supercycle playing out right in front of our eyes. Now, it's probably a good time to quickly cover what FIX actually does. They specialize in something called MEP. That stands for mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. You can think of it as the complex, mission-critical guts of these huge modern facilities like data centers. It's really specialized, high-stakes work, and that's exactly why they have so much pricing power and why their margins are so strong. So, what did the folks in the C-suite have to say about all this? Well, their commentary really boiled down to two key things: an absolutely historic demand environment and the company's uncanny ability to execute flawlessly right in the middle of it. Yeah, you heard the phrase unprecedented demand over and over again on their call, and they tied it directly to the AI and data center boom. So their strategy is pretty clear, right? They're leaning hard into this demand, focusing on those complex, high-margin projects, and they're using smart acquisitions and modular construction to scale up fast. And the proof is right there in the pudding. For the second quarter in a row, they added over $1 billion to their backlog. Just incredible. In this quote from the call, this really says it all. What they're basically saying is that the demand is so unbelievably strong that the entire market can't even keep up with all the opportunities out there. Think about that. It suggests a huge runway for growth for any company that can actually execute. And right now, that company is absolutely FIX. Okay, let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture here. Because, you know, one great quarter is awesome, but the story of Comfort Systems' dominance gets even clearer when you stack them up against the rest of the market. Just look at this. Over the past year, FIX has delivered a staggering total return of 134%. Now compare that to the S&P 500, which is up around 16%, or the broader industrial sector, up about 13%. I mean, it's not even in the same zip code. This is a story of just profound, sustained outperformance. So what does this all mean for the future? Where do we go from here? Well, that brings us to our final section, the next call, where we lay out our thesis and our rating. So, after all that, what's the next call on comfort systems? Okay, let's break it down. First, the outlook. That monster $9.38 billion backlog, that's not just a nice number. It's a pipeline of basically guaranteed revenue that gives them incredible momentum well into 2026. Second, the price action. Look, after a 19% jump, you gotta expect the stock to take a breather, maybe consolidate a bit. But as that backlog starts converting into actual reported earnings, we see a clear path for more upside. And that all leads to our rating. This is a company that is just firing on all cylinders, and it's perfectly positioned right in the sweet spot of the AI infrastructure supercycle. For all those reasons, our rating on Comfort Systems USA is, without a doubt, outperform. The story's great, the execution is even better, and the macro tailwind behind them isn't just a wind, it's a hurricane.
And of course, we have to end with this very important note. This is not financial advice. Our analysis today is purely for informational purposes.